I grew up at VCMC, like, ever since I was a kid. I remember being 4 or 5 and I was announcing the times in the timing truck and stuff like that. So it was a long time ago, and grew up racing at VCMC. So it was kind of cool to be back here and meeting all the new members. I started when I was 8 years old in go-karts, and I kind of worked my way up. Many of you might have known my dad, Sam. He was my coach, and he really brought me up racing all these years and raced go-karts. I started touring the United States, I think, around 10 or 11 years old. And then when I got to about 20 years old, that's when I first started racing cars. So I started with, of course, after the VCMC driving school. Then my career began flourishing. And then I went on to, I started racing, firstly Formula Ford. I think Formula Ford at 20, and then I started, I think this year was very different for me. It was my first year really expanding different cars. I started driving for Audi. I started driving the Chevrolets, and also did Porsche. So it was a really mixed year for me. But it was really good adapting to new cars, learning new things, and been a great year of racing against some of the big names. And it's quite interesting racing against guys like Andy Priel and stuff like that. And these guys have just been around for so much, and so racing against them, you learn so much. Just having the experience of racing against top drivers, and I think that's the main thing that improves you is racing against better drivers. And I think we should just do questions throughout this conversation to see where it leads.
A few years ago when you came and you talked to VCMC, you said that the Macau was probably your favorite track. Is that still the case?
Yes. Macau is, the reason I like Macau is, firstly, I like street circuits. So it's like, street circuits to me is something that's really special because it's very challenging. You got to find the limit, but you got to be conservative at the same time. So it's a little different than guys that just go out there and are really aggressive and then find the limit by going off the track or here and there. Because in Macau, if you make a mistake, you're pretty much in the wall.
You touched on it briefly. If you're going to Bathurst, what do you do to learn a new track?
Actually, I joke about Gran Turismo, but it's a really good way to learn circuits. And because they're really, like, the data they use now, it's really similar.
What's your position on the place of making contact?
There's definitely a lot more contact in touring cars, and a lot of times it's about, I think maybe like, you have to drive aggressive to a certain point, but you can touch other cars, but you can't really get over the overboard. So if you go a little bit too aggressive, you're gonna knock the other car off the track and you get penalties, or you get hit off by other guys. It's a very competitive paddock of drivers. Like, there's 30 drivers in our championship, but it's still, I think it's very civil and very professional, but at the same time, tempers do flare at times.
You talked about being a little cautious getting into the corners. Was that a result of doing the transition to the front-wheel drive?
I think just getting used into touring cars, because really, I think it's just much more aggressive. I think in Porsche races we are quite aggressive, but there's a certain amount of respect in the room you go. But touring cars, it's just so difficult to pass, and because our power is so limited on the cars, and it's just more about, you need to get through, make positions up, and a lot of people that qualify poorly, they have to, if you qualify poorly, they try to make up positions early.
Are you worried to take on ballast or to have restrictors on your engines or to make racing more competitive?
Yeah, there is ballast on the cars, and they base it off of time. So, because these people dodging weight all the time or trying not to get weight and things like that. So then pretty much now it's like your fastest lap time in the race and fastest lap time qualifying. They make an average, and then they base the weights on each race like that. Every 3 races, they look at the last 3 races in the schedule, and they adjust the weights, the ballast like that.
How's involved are you in the car fair?
It's actually, we're quite involved. We work a lot with the engineers about the car setup. The setup on the car, touring cars are quite open, so we play the differentials a lot. We're changing diff locks all the time. We're doing, of course, just the regular alignments like cambers, toe. So I think knowing your car is very important to, if you start playing with setups and things, you don't always necessarily listen to what everybody says because you drive differently than other people. So you really have to believe in what you feel in the car, and I think that's very important.
Are you guys running spec tires?
Yes, Yokohama spec tires. So everybody's on the same tires. For the touring cars. And we get into GT racing, The factory teams, we run confidential tires, which are every tire manufacturer nominates certain cars. So BMW runs under Dunlops, and then Porsche. Some teams run under Michelin, some run under Pirelli. So it depends, and then certain teams are nominated certain tires. So if you're not with the factory team, there's a good chance you won't get factory tires, and then you won't have a chance.
So would you say getting into the factory ride would be your next step in this sport?
Yeah, it's definitely, you're always trying to align with manufacturers, and it's hard to get into that, but if you really stick around with it and keep it going, then you get the experience, and when the time comes, then you'll be the experienced one, you'll get in the seats. So, like I say, I work with a lot of sponsors. I have a lot of, I think I have about, in general, overall about 10 to 12 sponsors, something like that, and some bigger than others, and different championships. So some focus on Asia more, some focus on Europe, and some it's kind of broad. So it's really ongoing work with sponsors. So it's not, half the work is on the track, half the work is off the track. So it's like a lot of events and media and a lot of things like that. I have some people helping me. I have an assistant and some PR people, and I have a manager that's kind of more like someone to throw ideas around with and work with that. But at the end, I think sponsors like personal relationships.
So Darryl, how do you physically train for the driving and the racing?
I do a lot of cardio. I do a lot of cardio, and we do some light weights, but not so much. We do mainly like high, they call it high reps stuff. So I don't really do heavy weights. We do lightweight training and kind of do more reps. So we get endurance strength built up. And I do a lot of biking. So we do about 2 hours a day on the bike in the mornings.
You talked about the physical preparation. What about the mental preparation that's involved in staying focused?
I think experience helps a lot there. I think that helps you focus a lot. The usual stuff is I think this helps in autocross, a lot of mental preparation, like visualization. That helps a lot, especially for us in qualifying. We need to do a lot of it because we have one lap. We pretty much outlap, and you have to nail your best time right there. And if not, your tires won't be as good after the first lap. Like the first lap is definitely the best for the tires. So I think in autocross, it's the mental preparation is the key, because you only get that one chance to do time. And I think it's the same with us in racing, qualifying, and stuff like that.
Can you talk a bit about some of the dynamics when you're racing, doing one of the endurance series where you have, say, 3 drivers?
You get really close to your teammate, and you start understanding each other, how you set the car up. So we actually work on a compromise a bit. We talk about things always together. We debrief with the engineers together, the 2 people, 2 or 3 drivers.
How long do you see yourself actually being in the driver's seat, racing competitively?
My main focus is 100% racing, and I'll try to race till I'm in my 40s. That's the goal. And, to be able to stay competitive and race at that age, I think would be good. Thanks for having me, guys. It's been great. I still follow the Canucks on the